I don't know. I see a thing that I like, and my brain thinks, okay, how can I make a role playing game out of this? Right? Like, what could we do to make a role playing game out of this? And so that's where the Between came from, because there's this show called Penny Dreadful, which I watched Penny Dreadful, love Penny Dreadful, most of it anyway, not all of it, and I was like, I want to make the Penny Dreadful role-playing game. There's not a role-playing game that does Penny Dreadful, and so I'm going to do that. And so that's where the idea for the Between came from. Now, when I did my research for the Between, I started to like work in other influences and inspirations, particularly like British horror classic novels and things like that, right? But initially, yeah, it was just this kind of like, oh yeah, I really love this, I'm going to do this. And so that's a lot of like what propelled me. I read a lot. I read probably 70 or 80 books a year. I'm constantly like thinking of things of like, I bet I could put that in a game somehow, or I bet I could like make this a character in a game. I could kind of play with this idea a little bit. So I'm always sort of like, I've always got just like the things I'm reading and watching, like kind of swimming around in my head. For Brindlewood Bay, it was this really particular, that was actually a really interesting kind of outcome, because I didn't start, like Brindlewood Bay was not an accident, but it was an accident, because I was originally writing The Between first. The Between is the game about monster hunters in Victorian era London, right? And I knew I wanted to create this sort of unique mystery solving investigation system, right? And I was trying to do something that hadn't really been done before, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work. And The Between, I'd already written a lot of playbooks, and I'd written a lot of like scenarios and stuff. And so in order to test out the mystery system of The Between, I wanted to make a smaller game that I could kind of like use as a sketch almost, right? Like, so if it didn't work in the smaller game, I would know it wouldn't work in the bigger game, and I wouldn't have to keep redoing the bigger game, And so that's where Brindlewood Bay came from. It was somebody, I was like, hey, I want to make a smaller mystery game. Like, what should it be about? And someone on Twitter was like, I don't think there's like a Murder, She Wrote style game. And I was like, you know what? I don't think there is. I love Murder, She Wrote. And so, and then someone else was like, it'd be really cool if it was like Murder, She Wrote, but H.P. Lovecraft. And I was like, that would be cool. And so that was kind of how that came about. And I was like, that is a great idea. And so I kind of, went back, did some research, and watched a lot of Murder, She Wrote. And then I kind of started to think about, I was really just trying to test out this idea for the mysteries that I wanted to do in The Between. But I actually really got into, the setting of Brindlewood Bay as well, as it was kind of coming together in my mind. And so it was, and then ultimately Brindlewood Bay was received really well. People loved it. And so it became kind of its own thing. But initially, yeah, it was just like a trial thing for The Between. So I was just trying stuff out, but it was a happy accident, basically. Yeah.